Oh, hi,
Nice
Amy
job.
Johnson.
Good.
Hello, how are you
How are
doing?
you?
Really nice job.
I'm
Rushing
good.
around.
I'm at my son's.
Who's,
What's that?
I said rushing around.
Yeah, I'm guessing you as well. I'm trying to watch my son's baseball game at the same time.
Good afternoon and welcome to the special Park and Rec Commission meeting. First item on our agenda this afternoon is a call to order and roll call of the commissioners in attendance. Start with Leroy.
Leroy Floor, Park and Rec Commission.
Bob Skillings,
Dave Christian, City Councilor.
Bev Lunenberg.
and I believe we have two members that are remote.
Yeah, Carissa Bugler.
Amy Johnson?
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion's been made. Is there a
Carissa will
second?
Carissa will second.
Okay, thank you. So a motion's been made and seconded to approve our agenda this afternoon. Any further discussion about that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. So then we'll move on to our new business, and really the only business we have this afternoon. And I will defer to our Park and Rec Director, Tom Schmitz.
Thank you, Chair Skillings and Commissioners. You have before you basically two questions today having to do with scooters. So I will read into the record a bit here off of the action form. This first section has to do with the renting, sharing businesses and organizations. which the City Council had the first reading at their last meeting on April 20th of a proposed new ordinance, 2021-42, which will regulate the renting, sharing businesses and organizations, along with regulating their the use. City Council desires Park and Rec Commission recommendations related to this topic, which is why we're having a special meeting. The City Council plans to conduct the second and final reading at their next meeting, which is this coming Tuesday, May 4th. The ordinance would also pertain to non-motorized renting and sharing businesses such as bicycles. A private vendor desires bringing their motorized scooter rental business to New Ulm, which is why this topic is before the commission and council. The Park and Recreation Director and Department has no opposition to the renting, sharing, micro-mobility vehicle businesses or organizations. We think this is a great idea that there's a renting or sharing operation looking at our community. So you have that. And then there's basically two questions. The first question has to do whether or not the commission supports an ordinance regulating and welcoming the renting and sharing of micromobility vehicles, electric and non-electric. And so you have before you two options. One is to recommend that the city council adopt the proposed ordinance or not.
Okay, let's address that first question. I think we have a new member that just joined us. Would you please state your name?
Laura Evans.
Thank you, Laura. So yes, Commission, let's address this first part, the renting and sharing and the ordinance allowing that type of business here in New Ulm. We do need a motion and a second to recommend that to the City Council or to not recommend it. And is there any discussion prior to making that motion? Hearing none, is there a motion to either recommend it or not recommend it?
Christian, I'll motion to recommend the city council adopt proposed ordinance 2021-42.
Okay,
This is Carissa. I will second that motion.
okay. So the motion's been made and seconded to recommend the City Council adopt the proposed ordinance 2021-42, basically allowing
Roll. Okay.
the renting and sharing of motorized vehicles or scooters in town.
I do have a question. So where are they allowed to go? Are they on?
That'll be the next.
Oh,
this is
okay.
just the ordinance.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So Chair, when you are ready to vote, I can call the roll for you. We'll have to
okay.
do a roll individually.
We need to do a roll. Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
Director Schmitz, would you call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Floor,
Yes.
Commissioner Skillings,
Yes.
Commissioner Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundberg,
Yes,
Commissioner Bugler,
Yes.
and Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Director Schmitz. Move on to the second part of our new business.
Thank you, Chair Skillings and members. You have before you the second topic, which actually will divide into two. They have to do with whether or not you would like to see electric scooters or motorized scooters to utilize sidewalks, and then the next one would be trails. So let's talk about sidewalks first. Motorized scooters can reach speeds up to 15 miles per hour. They make virtually no noise and are designated for electric propulsion, not human propulsion or pedaling. Sidewalks, except for downtown and the recreational trail, which, pedestrians, or a lot of people refer to it as the bicycle trail, have been designed, constructed, and promoted for pedestrians, bicycles, tricycles, and unicycles. The purposes of sidewalks and trails are exercise, non-motorized transportation, and recreation. Motorized wheelchairs for mobility impaired people are allowed on sidewalks and trails. Motorized scooters may possibly impede or impair pedestrians and/or bicycle, tricycle, unicyclists, especially for very young users or elderly, children and elderly. So you have before you the first question of whether or not we should allow motorized scooters on sidewalks.
Thank you, Director Schmitz. I do have some letters that were received from the general public, and I'll read those into the record right now. So this comes from Deb Beatty, she's the manager of the Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute at New Ulm Medical Center. Cindy Winters alerted me that the council is drafting an ordinance for use of electric scooters on the bike trail. My understanding of the purpose of the bike trail is to provide a safe area for exercise for all residents. It does not appear that the electric scooters are used for exercise as they are motorized, and I believe they may pose a hazard for the seniors in our community who are using the bike trail for walking. I do support the use of electric wheelchairs because most users are accompanied by someone walking, and this provides a safe area for that exercise and socialization. I am also speaking on behalf of CAST, as I am on that board. Thank you for your time and for hearing my concerns. Deb Beatty. The second letter comes from a resident, Dennis Bourne. It is my understanding that the New Ulm Recreational Trail is for bicycle, walking, and other non-motorized use. I am not sure exactly what the new request for trail use will cover, but motorized bicycles or other conveyances, whether gas or electric, should not be allowed. Motorized means motorized. The only exception would be for handicap conveyances. This was the original intent of the trail. Again, from Dennis Bourne.
So Chair and members, just to make sure we are focusing on sidewalks first.
One clarification I want to make, the first letter that you read into there, the ordinance is not just permitting on the bike trail. The ordinance is for the use and renting and sharing in New Ulm. It's not, the ordinance,
It has nothing to do with.
she stated that it's for the ordinance for the bike trail. No, it is not. That's why we're here now. Where do we want to allow it? What's the recommendation of the park board? Just to clarify, it's not just an ordinance for that.
Okay, and so yes, the first question then would be for use on sidewalks.
Chris Dalton, City Manager. So, Minnesota State Statute 169.225 deals with motorized foot scooters, and in Subdivision 2, it basically says that no person may operate a motorized foot scooter upon a sidewalk except when necessary to enter or leave adjacent property. And I think that's what's I think that's spelled out in the license agreement and ordinance. So basically, the only time they would be allowed, and kind of like same thing with bicycles, if they're going up onto the sidewalk to park it in front of a store, without blocking traffic and exiting the same way.
So I guess my question would be, where would a person use their scooter then? Would it be on the side of the street?
Yeah, so it'd be adjacent, as close as they can get to the right curb. Just like a bicycle operating on the street as well.
Would they be can they use them in the designated bicycle areas that we have on our streets?
Yes, because those are still public streets. Even though they're part of the bike trail, it's still a public street.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, so the question before the commission is whether or not we want to allow motorized scooters to operate on our sidewalks.
Bob, can I just ask a question that maybe Chris could answer? This is Carissa. What is the age limit of someone who can operate a motorized scooter?
Bird is stating that they have to be 18 years or older to rent the scooter.
Okay. I was just wondering for, aside from the company and just other personally owned scooters,
Mhm.
if children can drive them, and if so, then we'd be supporting children driving a motorized scooter in the street. Is that correct?
No, I mean, they would have to be 18, so we wouldn't be allowing it. That would be an operator issue, and they potentially could be fined because I think in the license agreement, it does spell out that they have to be 18, and that's Bird's policy as well. So you basically have to have a smartphone and a credit card to use the scooters and rent them anyway.
What if you own your
So, Chris,
own
I think my-
scooter?
Oh, if you own your own,
Yeah, if you own, yeah.
then that's just like you owning a bike or a motorized bike. I mean,
So if you own your own, you can.
You have to follow the ordinance
still have to
with-
yeah,
follow
you
the
still have to
ordinance.
follow it. Yeah.
So anyone,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So
Because
if we,
basically you're
okay.
subject to all bicycle rules when
Yep.
you're on a scooter, regardless.
I understand that, but usually teenagers can get their license at 16,
Mhm.
and a lot of them work and possibly don't have a car.
Mhm.
So I would think that would, I don't know, put a question mark in allowing it at 18, unless it's a state law.
That's
Or
that's
city.
Bird's policy.
I believe that's the vendor's
That's the-
policy.
But
That's
I mean, if you own your own, if you have your license at 16, would you be allowed to drive your motorized vehicle to work or say to school?
Sure you can. You
Yeah,
just obey all traffic laws. Same thing with a bicycle.
Okay,
yeah. We're not regulating. This is just
Okay.
theirs to rent.
Okay.
You have to be 18. Outside of that, it still would obey
Okay, thank
any
you.
other laws, or just like riding a bike, you're responsible for yourself at that point.
Any other questions about sidewalks? Does the commission have a recommendation to the city either way in the form of a motion?
I'll make the motion not to allow scooters to operate on sidewalk.
I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to recommend to the city council to not allow motorized scooters to operate on our sidewalks. Is there any further discussion? Director Schmitz, would you call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. So just to reiterate, Commissioner Floor made the motion and Commissioner Evans seconded the motion. So I will call for the roll now. Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Floor,
Yes.
Commissioner Skillings,
Yes.
Commissioner Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundberg,
yes,
Commissioner Bugler,
yes,
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Passed unanimously. We can move on to the final topic. And that final topic, Commissioners, before you is whether or not to allow motorized scooters on our recreational trails, I think commonly known as the paved bicycle pedestrian trail. So please discuss that and consider a motion to recommend something to the City Council.
Any questions about that?
Tom, is an electric bike considered a motorized, like bicycle device or scooter device, kind of what we're talking about? Would they fall into this category?
My understanding, Commissioner Bugler and Commissioners, is that e-bicycles are classified as a bicycle. They have a pedal and can easily be propelled by the operator pedaling. And my understanding that the State of Minnesota Department of Natural Resources does allow them on their trails, e-bikes. You know, it's important to
Did I hear you
differentiate.
correctly-
Go ahead.
Did I hear you correctly earlier that the DNR does not allow motorized scooter type devices on their trails?
That's my understanding. Yes. And I think, you know, there
Okay.
may be a significant differentiation between conveyances such as bicycles and scooters that can be pedaled, can have human propulsion, versus conveyances that don't have pedals.
Thank you.
And then Chris Dalton, City Manager. Under that same statute with, for motorized foot scooters, 169.225, under subdivision 6, letter B, a person may operate a motorized foot scooter on a bicycle path, bicycle lane, bicycle trail, or bikeway that is not reserved for the exclusive use of non-motorized traffic unless the local authority or governing body have jurisdiction over that path, lane, trail, bikeway, prohibits operation by law. So since we own that bike trail, you can determine whether or not you want them. And state statute says technically, yes, you can. They would be considered to be operable on a bike trail.
Okay.
So it's a local decision.
I have seen some of those hoverboards on the bike trail, people using those, and that is allowed right now. Is it allowed? Is it maybe not preferred or liked, or what do we know about those hoverboards?
My understanding is that our recreational trail is a non-motorized trail.
Okay. Okay. And how does that get regulated then? If you see
Enforced?
law enforcement? Or what did you
That's
say?
your question? How is it
Yeah, how is it
enforced?
enforced, right?
Ultimately, the police department.
Okay. So if pedestrians see that, then it's a call to the local law enforcement. So okay.
Correct.
So really
And
what
then-
you're telling
okay.
us that right now, they're not allowed on that thing, a motorized vehicle, right?
Yeah.
So actually, the only thing we would have to do is say it would be allowed, because it's not allowed now, right?
Yeah.
So really, there's only one thing we can do, right?
No,
You'd have to have a
keep
motion.
keep it as is, or you can recommend to council that you want to allow them.
Okay, that's what I
Right.
mean.
Okay.
What I'm hearing with the general public that I've discussed, it's like a 50-50 split. Some are saying, well, yeah, we should be able to use them on, it's a motorized bicycle, that's what they're calling it. And the other half are saying, no, they'll be too fast, we'll have issues with it. I'm hearing a 50-50 split on it.
I mean, having personally used the trail, I've had more problems with very fast bicyclists speeding past us, slower bicyclists, and the ones with kids that are just enjoying the ride. But they say like on your left, or they call out to you when they're coming or going, or try to stay to the right of traffic, to the left of. So it hasn't, but that has been, I've never, even when I've seen the hoverboards, obviously not the motorized scooters yet, but the hoverboards, have not been bothered by them. They do not go that fast. They are not weaving. They aren't, so I haven't had a problem with them. The faster bicyclers, that's where I would, I don't know, but you can't.
I just know I spend my quite a bit of time down there in spring because of baseball and stuff, and I get back there. I'll be honest with you, most generally the people that are walking or driving their bike are decent.
Yeah.
I'm thinking and this is just my thought, if we put motorized stuff on there, I think it's going to get a little hectic. Okay,
More traffic, you're saying?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, I think with a new company coming in offering the rental, I think that there'll be an increase of use, and we could have maybe more problems on the trail because of it.
So is a motorized vehicle different than an e-bike? I mean, what's the difference between this company that's bringing these bikes in and an e-bike?
So the main distinction between the two and why they're kind of classified different is with the e-bikes, you have to pedal and then it assists you. Like it'll just keep your momentum going and assist you. Whereas the scooters have a throttle control. You hit the
Okay.
throttle, you go, and it propels you. But there also is no coasting on the scooters either. Once you take your hand off the accelerator, you stop. It's not a sudden stop, but it's not coasting. You can stop yourself. And so, that's the major difference there, and nothing's etched in stone. If you decide today that, yeah, let's try it out on the bike trail, we can do it for a year. And if there's issues, problems, congestions, then we can limit that use. It's kind of, we're allowing them try it out on a trial basis. If there's issues, they can geo-fence it off saying you can't ride here, let users know that they can't ride there. So I would take that into consideration, that we can try it on a trial basis because, ultimately we're not going to know until
You
you
know,
let them
right.
you let them do it. Because I think at this time, I think they're only going to give us 50 scooters, spread throughout the city, and they're not all going to be at the bike trail at once. So
Right. I think that was my next question is what is the next step if we want to change our decision, what was made today? So, I mean, if it isn't working out or if we,
yeah, we would make contact with them to
Right.
let them know. They do have to report to us any incidences that happen as long as there's police report, because
Right.
they're not going to know if there's an incident unless there's a police report, but that is part
Right.
of the license agreement.
okay,
The data usage and stuff like that.
okay.
Do we think that, okay, you said there's 50 of them bikes them coming here?
Mhm.
After, even besides that, anybody that has private one can go on there too then, right?
Yes. And you can limit it, and you can be very specific in the ordinance. Is it just e-scooters, the electric scooters, not gas powered scooters, we can call that out.
Chris, this is Carissa, could we also set a speed limit? I'm guessing if we set a speed limit, if we decide to recommend allowing electric scooters, there would be the challenge of enforcing the speed limit, but it would put some parameters around the speed differences potentially between a bike and a scooter.
Yes. So as it is right now, 15 miles an hour is the max speed limit for those scooters. But if there's certain zones, they can look at putting in a speed limiter for those zones, and then they can be able to speed up once they get out.
Hi, Amy Johnson here. I am just curious from if anybody knows from this company's experience, where do they see that their scooters are mainly operating?
I guess I would just depend on the town. Mostly it'd be downtown. St. Paul has them, so that's just primarily in their downtown to get around. And again, they'll only be in operation for kind of when the snow melts to, fall, October would probably when they pick them up and they'd be off the streets at that point. But it really just depends. I mean, I've been in other cities where they're just taking them all over the place. They're on the trails, they're, on a bike trail, they're sightseeing, they're, doing things to get around the city because they don't want to be in a taxi or they don't want to walk. It's a little bit faster. Again, I can speak for myself. I would jump on one, drive it down to the, New Mexican restaurant and drive it back to work so I don't have to jump in my car. So, it depends on who's using them. I would assume college kids, the MLC kids would use them to get to job, get down to downtown if they don't have a car, to work or something like that. So, there's different applications, and then you have tourists coming in that maybe they just want to take a scenic
Right.
cruise through this, through the city. And, I would say our bike trail, the paved bike trail is probably the most scenic route we have in town. So I can see them potentially going that route.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Well, commissioners, how would you like to make a recommendation to the city council?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the city council to allow motorized scooters to operate on the recreational, the pedestrian and bicycle path.
Would you like to add a condition on there to lower the speed on the paved bike trail to
Is it
like 10 miles an
plausible
hour?
saying 10 miles an hour? Do you think from that certain point, I mean, I don't know this section specifically, but that section,
Yeah, the paved,
right,
the actual
correct, as
paved bike
opposed to-
trail to the
correct.
street one?
Yes.
I think that should be
Okay.
feasible.
Is it 10 miles an hour? Is that, 10 miles an hour, then 15?
Yeah, so they cap out at 15.
Right.
If you would like to say 10 to 12, so I can see, it gives them a little
Yep.
wiggle room, because what if they say the lowest they can go is
Right.
12? It gives them a
Right.
little wiggle room, but we'll reduce the speed in that section.
Okay.
Now, question, Chris, so the signs go up, that adheres to bicyclists also? Who I have seen go screaming by me. I mean, good for them, they're exercising.
Right.
I don't know if
Go
we,
20 and a scooter can go 10?
that's the argument or
Yeah.
the call. Not all bicyclists go 20.
No.
But
Right.
some do, some go faster than that. I've seen some rip down at 30, 35. I mean,
Right.
just open, here you go. But we wouldn't have to post signs. They would regulate that through their software, that it would just,
The company
Yeah.
you're talking about? Okay.
would regulate that. They can adjust in certain sections. But I mean, that's a call. I mean, if you feel bicyclists are going 15 and you just want it to go 15, I mean, that's the other question too.
So we have a motion before us to allow motorized scooters on our recreational trail and limit it to 12 miles per hour.
Yep.
And is there a second?
Bob, can I just ask for clarification on that motion? Is that 12 miles per hour for all pedestrians, all anyone on any type of motorized vehicle or bicycle would be 12 miles an hour?
I think it's just for the scooters.
Did you hear that, Carissa?
I did, thanks.
I guess I'm just curious if that extra 3 miles an hour is gonna really make a difference. And by adding, if those bikes can only go like 15 miles an hour, by adding the 12 and then, the bikes going different speed, is that really gonna complicate things by putting that in there?
Do you think that for the newness of this offering for the community, that if we say that lower speed for these motorized scooters, that might be a peace of mind for some people, knowing that they can only go 10 to 12 in certain areas? And we'll try that for a year. I guess that's where I'm thinking, saying that as opposed to just saying the recommendation as is.
So we have a motion. We need a second. Hearing no second, the motion fails.
Bob, this is Carissa. I'd like to second that motion.
All right, you just got in. Okay, so there's a motion and a
Thank
second
you.
to allow the motorized scooters. Any further discussion? Director Schmitz, would you call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. And I think the motion includes a limit of 12 miles an hour.
Yes.
Okay, the motion made was Commissioner Evans and seconded by Commissioner Bugler to allow motorized scooters on the recreational trail at a speed no greater than 12 miles an hour. I'll read the roll. Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Floor,
No.
Commissioner Skillings,
Yes.
Commissioner Christian,
For now, yes.
Commissioner Lundberg,
Yes, with hesitation. Yes.
Commissioner Bugler,
Yes.
and Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
The motion carries.
The motion carries and will be passed on to the city council with our recommendation. Next item on the agenda is the date of our next meeting. That would be our regular monthly meeting on May 10th at 4 PM right here in the City Hall chambers, or by a Zoom call. And then item number 6 is our adjournment. There's no further business, so we are adjourned. Thank you.